So, today I will be covering the game Ascendancy a little bit. This is an unusual type of game for me because I normally play mostly very narrative heavy, thematic adventure games. This is more of a strategy game, but I find that it has really strong thematic ties and just is a really unique game overall. So, what I have set up here is a solo game against two Nemesis players. You can see the Nemesis is probably super zoomed out. This is the best I could do. This game is definitely uses up a lot of table space. Um, so hopefully you can see everything. Try to pull things into the video here, but um, yeah, I have a two Nemesis solo game set up. The two Nemeses that I'm facing are the Archvisor over here and the Spinstress. Um, these are their minis. See if you can see these. That's the Archvisor. And this is the Spinstress. This is the all-in deluxe edition with the skull dice tower here and everything like that. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of like, maybe this can be a quick rundown for what the game is for people who've never seen it before, and also a bit of a tutorial for how to run a solo game. So I have already played one turn here, but I'm going to recap what I did really quick and kind of give a quick rundown of the rules, and then maybe I'll play a second turn if I will get into it if I have time, which I probably won't. So what we have here, as I mentioned, is two AI players and one solo player. This is my player board. The first part of setup is that you set down the statistics for everybody. So you have intellect, cunning, and might are these three parts of the skill wheel. I just realized I have glasswork here. The AI has its starting stats on the left side of this board. There's also a hard mode for each of these AIs. This is one of my first games, so there's absolutely no way I'm doing that. But for example, here the Archvisor starts with 2 might, 3 cunning, and 4 intelligence. So you can see the yellow pegs are at those positions. And then the Spinstress has another set of stats. Loyalty is sort of the main, at least for this mode. There are a number of different scenarios in the game. I'm currently playing, let's see if I can flip to it. It's kind of the base mode. There's half this scenario booklet is tutorial, and then halfway through it starts getting into the different scenarios. This is the one that I'm playing called Loyalty of the People, which is sort of the basic victory point chase. Normally, again, I'm not a huge fan of victory point style games, but that's often because they become kind of like a point salad. It's hard to see who's winning. One thing I appreciate about Ascendancy is the victory point is very prominent. There don't seem to be a lot of like end game wild bonuses. Yeah, it's very transparent who's winning in that regard. So yeah, the loyalty determines for this scenario the win condition. This is probably hard to see, but next to all these numbers, or many of these numbers, is also a income. So like +2, +3, +4, +5, which is dictates how many coins you get at the start of the decade. A decade is kind of like a full round of the game. And then your upkeep is on the other side. That is how much money you're losing every turn due to things like, having built buildings or recruited champions and things like that. That costs upkeep, and as that goes up, that subtracts from your income. And this is a marker for the decade, so it's sort of the turn. I just finished the round. I just finished round 1. So setting up the Nemeses is pretty straightforward. They both started here on their respective colored embarkments. Everybody starts on an embarkment at the corner of the map. Again, we're 1 turn in, so I'll explain how that all happened. I started on my purple embarkment. I'm playing House Raspute down here. I started at my purple embarkment, and we all kind of like went in 1 in the first turn. You'll see here that on the hex map, you lay out items, common in like the outer ring, uncommon in the middle ring, and then rare in the center. And this turn I picked up a common and a uncommon item, but I have not yet identified them. So when you pick them up, you just kind of have them, but they're not actually identified yet. So we all started on our embarkments, and then at least in normal mode, standard mode for the AI, they always place first. So what you basically do is you take their dice. What do they do with their dice? They have yellow and red dice, which I seem to have misplaced. Oh, here they are. They're in the Nemesis target hex. So you basically roll these. You roll them here, and then you do that for each tray. So you would roll the yellow and the red for the first tray, and it's pretty straightforward. The number that you roll is where you place their meeples, their little characters on the tray. So you start with the frontier tray, and you can see red, the spinstress went to the item space, and the archvisor went to the reveal space. So what do those do? The item space, if you are a player, allows you to draw an item from either one of these decks of items. There's a deck of attack items and a deck of kind of like general items, and you would then get one of those items of your choice of the ones that are available face up there. But if the AI lands on it, then you basically bury the top two things, and then it's similar with the reveal. Reveal, if you were a player, there's reveal 1 and reveal 2. If you revealed the first creature, that would allow you to put it in front of you, like I did with this flame fox, and that allows you to, you don't have to fight it immediately, but you can look. It gives you the benefit of seeing exactly what it is that you are potentially going to fight, and then you can choose to fight it at whatever point you want. Where if you don't do reveal, then when you do eventually do the fight action, you just have to draw directly from the top. One neat thing, as I'm talking about creatures, is you can see here, hopefully, this one has a black symbol, this one has a red symbol. There are sort of elemental interactions between things, and so without even knowing what the thing is, maybe if you can see that, there's like an interaction wheel between like life and death and fire, water, etc. They have different names, but you can see like my champion, for example, does better against blue monsters. So I don't know what the monster is, but I can tell if it's what its sort of suit is or color. So that's the first thing you do is you go through each tray and you roll the dice and place down for the red and or whoever your nemesis are. In my case, it's red and yellow, and you place them into the slots. For things like build and patron, they don't do any action, but they do take up the slot. But then for other things, they will like discard things and things like that. So you do that for all 4 different locations, and then, 4 different trays, and then you begin to take your actions. And so this was the tray, this was essentially the setup that I was given. So I started out with 1 worker, so I decided to build. And what build does is you can take one of these 4 different paths here. So I have the black market in cunning, the maze in might, the intellect is the laboratory, and then I have my empire. And it says on the back the cost of building this thing. So let's see if this card is visible. I can't see anything right now, so hopefully this is visible to you all. But on the left side there is the requirement for building, which I believe with the first tier of the black market is you have to have 2 intellect, and then you have to spend 2 ore. And then what's in the second column is what you'll gain, which I think is 1 loyalty, and you gain 1 upkeep, which is not good. And then it says to establish it. I did that from memory, and it looks like it's correct. So once you pay all that, then you flip it over and you build it here in this slot. You can do that on any of these trays when you take the build action. And the neat thing about that is if you're playing with multiple people, it wouldn't happen really with the Nemeses, but anybody can build, and then of any of the buildings that are there, when you patron, you can attend any of those buildings. If you attend your own, it's free. If you attend another player's, then you have to pay them 1 gold. But you can also always visit the base building, which here in the first tray is the innkeeper, which gives -1 food for your horse when you're traveling here, or rather, it costs 1 fewer food to travel, or you can heal 2 health for all your champions. So what I did was I built here in the black market, and this is another good example. Whenever you place in one of these gray spaces here, if you're the first person to place, then you get that bonus. So this is again very probably hard to see, but it's a -1 discount on ore. So it's basically saying instead of 2 ore, it costs 1 ore to build the black market. So I built that, and then what that does when you build is as you can see here, it's probably pretty far away, but if all these stacks of the different tiers start at the bottom, and then when you build one, you move it up and you reveal the bottom tier of your tech tree. So I have done that on both the black market and the empire in this first turn, and then that allows you to slot in resources into these different slots that do different things. So when I started the game, I started with 2 gold, 1 food, 1 ore, and 1 influence. These are the different cubes here. You got food, ore, skill, and knowledge, and then over here you have mana stones and influence. Those are the 6 cube types in the game. And so I had spent that 1 ore to build. I spent my 1 food here and you can do this at any time when you want to spend a resource, like spend a cube on something, you can do it in an instant on any time on your turn. And so I spent 1 food here in this bottom tech tree that I revealed by building the black market, which allowed me to recruit my rogue. This is my rogue. Pick it up and show you. So these champions are unique to the various different houses and the different lanes as well. Like this is the cunning hero for House Dispute, the rogue. And just because it's fun, I'll also show the rogue miniature. Hopefully that shows. That's what I'm using because I'm a big rogue fiend. But yeah, so I recruited that rogue with the 1 food. I also spent 1 influence here, and I did this all in the first turn. And what spending an influence does, at least in this first tray, is it gives you 1 extra worker of this type, and it also increases your upkeep by 1. So I got a second worker, and then what it would normally do if you were playing with other people is it would go around again and see if anybody else wants to play workers. There are mechanics to place place higher tiered workers in lower trays. It's kind of a more advanced tactic if you can use one of the essentially like these second tier workers can go in here, the third tier workers can go in second or first tier, etc. And if you place in that tray, if you place a higher tier worker, then you can actually bump someone out of their slot and they have to place somewhere else. I didn't do any of that. I just got a second one of these basic workers and I put it here in Patron. What Patron does is allows you to visit one of the buildings that's available. I didn't visit my black market. I visited the innkeeper, which reduced the cost of my horse, which you'll see later was important because I actually had no food because I'd spent it on getting my champion, and you need food to travel around the map. So essentially that gave me a discount. So that was the first tray, first sort of turn, and then we go to the second tray. Again, the Nemesis had already played here. So I placed my worker in knowledge to get a blue cube. That allowed me to put the blue cube here in this tech tree. And what that does when you do one of these blue cube tech trees is you get to look through this stack of not these are the different tiered buildings on top, but you get to look through the stack of abilities that's underneath it. You have to choose a tier that matches the building that you have available. So I built a tier 1 building, so I could only select one of these tier 1 techs. But the one that I chose was Spy Master, which I'll show you in a sec. It's out here as a passive. So once you build these technologies, they just sit out, and most of them are passive and give you some sort of benefit. So this says whenever you use the reveal action, you may poison the champion, or whenever you oust a rival, you may poison one of their units. So that's pretty cool. Basically, as I told you before, if I revealed a monster, not only would I get to put it in front of me and see what it does, but I would also get to poison it, which would mean it would take 1 damage at the end of every turn. And it's the same if as I mentioned, you could put down a higher tier uh, meeple to knock someone out, and then you could poison one of their units. So that was the tech that I got with the blue knowledge that I got here. And again, putting these, the moment I got the blue knowledge, I could put it in here. Or I could have waited, but you can do it as an instant anytime it's your turn. And whenever you spend, oh, one thing I didn't mention, so what these various resources do, they do a variety of things. Food, you can use, of course, like I mentioned here, to use in your tech trees. To usually food is to like summon units or to pay units, but you can also use it to travel around the map. Among other things, most of these resources have multiple uses. The ore is mostly used for building, so you can see I put one ore here. Whenever you spend a resource, you put it in this discard tray, which actually has some function that other players can draw from here. Uh, and then the skill I used to raise my intellect by one. So it was, uh, actually this is me purple. I started out at one, I needed two to get that black market. So I spent, whenever you spend a skill cube, you can raise any one of your stats one. There's a whole bunch of stuff on the skill wheel about a variety of like when you have, I was commenting at the start of the, at the start of the, at the start of the thing that if you have two of the same, or rather as you go up in tiers, you start to unlock different abilities. So this is kind of more of an advanced thing, but because I have two in both intellect and cunning, I unlock this ability in the middle, which you probably can't see, but it says glasswork. It allows me to take scrap from items that I've used up if they're glass, like potion bottles or whatever, and convert them into money. So anyway, that was what I did on the second turn. In the second tray, rather, I got a knowledge cube. I put it here to get my spy master, and then we go to the third cube, the third tray over here, which this one I might pick up because it's probably pretty far away. Just I don't know. The quests are going to fall all over the place. I'll just describe what's here. Maybe I can move this dice tray in case it's in the way. So what's here in this second tray is quests, hirelings, mana stones, influence, and building. And like all three of these trays have the ability to build and patron buildings. And they just, if you build from your first lane here with cunning, that goes in this first tray. If you build in might, the second lane goes here in the second tray. And if you do influence, it goes here in the third tray. So as you can see, the red went into build here and blocked that, and then yellow went into here to hireling, which again cycled the top of the top two, mercenary and war machines. So quests are cards that you can draw to give you some sort of objective. They on the back have renown. Renown is sort of like experience, both for you and for your empire. So it'll be something like, find a way to travel without spending any food, or to place two workers in a single tray, or something, some sort of little mechanical quest usually that when you complete it, then you get the renown reward. Hireling allows you to get a mercenary or a war machine. Mercenaries are not as powerful as your champion, but there are other NPCs that can kind of join your party. You can have, I think, up to 3 people, 1 person in your front and 2 back lanes. I'm actually looking at it, and it looks, there's some iconography here. It sounds like, looks like you can have a champion. No, yeah, maybe you can have all 3. I'm seeing a symbol here for war machines, and I was confused if you could only have a champion, a hireling, and a war machine, but I think it's any. War machines are for sieging, so specifically if you're attacking someone else's settlement. So I wasn't able to do that because they had slotted in there. So instead I got a mana stone. The way mana stones work is they go in a slot here on your board. They start in this top area, which is called charged. And then if you use them for something, they move down to the depleted row. And then at the start of the round or the decade, once all this is done, they go back up to charged. What are mana stones used for? They're used for a number of things, including abilities, but also every champion has, one of their abilities is a mana stone, sort of like an ultimate. For the rogue, it's the steal ability. So what she is able to do is she gets faded, which is sort of like invisibility, and then steals two coins from the target's controller or the bank if it's a monster. So I was very excited to try to do that. Didn't turn out that way when I actually battled, but that's one of the uses for Mana Stones. Also, this lane, the third lane near the Academy building, requires a Mana Stone to build. So it has a variety of uses. And then Influence here is just another resource, but it's a very powerful one. Like it usually unlocks additional workers or upgrades your workers to higher tiers. So I went here, I got a Mana Stone. That was basically this entire turn. And then this last one is the sort of movement one. Actually, the way this was actually set up was, I think it was yellow was here in slot 1, red was in slot 2. Oops, these guys fall down a lot. And then purple, was in slot 3, but then you can either, I'll show you these in a second, but you have 2 units that go onto this board. One is your mount, and one is your sort of lord or lady, and they are a combined unit. What's kind of fun here, normally when you get the game, they're just 2 separate things that fall apart, but so normally you just kind of balance them on top of one another, kind of like that, but they often fall off. So someone great, Harmony, I think her name was Harmony, in the Discord, made these awesome little saddles, 3D printed little saddles. Let's see if you can see that. But they basically slot onto the horse, and then you can put your meeple on top, and they don't fall off as easily. They kind of are much more sturdy on there. So anyway, it's an aside. So you can either, if you put them together, that means you're going to move and adventure. Adventure means you get a few benefits from it. If you move into a location, you'll always reveal a location from this tile. But if you're adventuring, then you get to reveal 2 and choose the better one. If you and then secondarily, I'll show you here, this Azure Fall is the location that I went to. On the top there's a skill check. So you can perform that skill check by basically rolling a d6 and adding your stat. And if you do well on it, then you get certain bonuses, and it's different for every location. I didn't do that. I just moved and then conquered. The reason I conquered instead of adventured is because I wanted to fight with my champion that I had summoned. So basically what happens here with the Nemeses, once you get to this area, is they will, by default, move. They're basically always trying to move and place settlements. And you roll their dice, and then this sort of, what do you call this, like compass, tells you what direction they'll move. I actually rolled opposites on these, so like this is currently a 5 for yellow, but I actually rolled a 2, which would have made him go that way. So what they tell you to do is basically reverse the die, so they go the other direction. And that was the same with the spinstress. She was going to go that way, so it made her go this way. So they basically move one by one. They draw a tile. They actually discard the item that's down there, and they immediately place a settlement. Whenever you place a settlement, you get the loyalty that is on that landscape tile. So you can see there in the bottom, this one has tiers of 3, 4, 5. So that's saying the tier of settlement that you build here. If you build a tier 1, which is the basic one, you get 3 loyalty, 4 for a tier 2, 5 for a tier 3. And then underneath that, you'll see it says purple -1 next to it. So all these may have that. There's kind of like combinations of, it essentially modifies the loyalty if you build a settlement here based on what's nearby. So unfortunately, I have a purple right next to it, so that meant that the loyalty was 1 fewer than it normally would have been. The last thing that's interesting about this is that on the bottom, you may have seen that here, on Azure Fall, since it's a blue location, it says Illusionist. What that means is that I told you before that if you use a green cube in one of these tech trees that you reveal, it will give you a champion. Well, in this final tech tree of the Empire, which is sort of the most powerful tech tree, if you place a food here, it says foreign champion. And what that does is you get to recruit the champion that is on the location that your hero is on. So that that's a champion from a different house. The illusionist is from House Roberts, the blue house. So you actually get to take one of their champions and make it your own. And that means that they don't, in a multiplayer game, that means they don't get to have that champion. Um, you don't get to steal it if they've already pulled it, but you get to get it if they haven't yet. So that's a neat mechanic. So anyway, they did their move and they placed these two locations, then they placed settlements, and I moved up their loyalty accordingly. And then I did my move to here to Azure Fall, but all I was able to do was to reveal it. The reason I went here is because there was an uncommon, so that's how I got my uncommon uh, item, which I have yet to identify. As I mentioned, when you pick up these items, you don't actually get any impact from them until you identify them. There's a number of ways to identify. Some of the most common are that many of these locations in the frontier phase, when you place first in the gray areas, as you can identify an item. Um, I think I've actually explained most of the locations here, so maybe I can finish by explaining the scout location, which I don't think I talked about, which allows you to basically, without even moving, you can do that process of pulling two landscape tiles for a region next to you, and then you can choose which one you want and put the other one on the bottom, I believe. So that it's because moving normally takes a whole action here, so you can sort of preemptively see if that's a good location you want to move to instead of having to move there first and figuring it out. So when I got here, I did the move. I went there, I took the item. I didn't, as you can see, I didn't have a settlement normally like they did, so there was no way that I could actually put a settlement here and get loyalty. So what I did was I conquered, and what conquered does, as I mentioned, if you don't reveal, I just had to take the creature that was off the top of the deck and put it here. So like the left side of this your tray is your party, the right side is the enemy party. So it was just me and this flame fox, and then you engage in combat. Since you already saw my rogue, I'll show you what this flame fox does. There's a sort of like light rock paper scissors between the different attributes. My my rogue is a cunning hero, and this flame fox is a cunning monster. What cunning basically does is they have very fast initiative, which is the symbol here on the left side, the triangle, but they often have very fast initiative. So they get to go first, get in first hits, but they often die very easily. There's the soft rock paper scissors is that like might heroes have armor, which is hard to pierce with damage, so cunning has a hard time attacking them, and whereas intellect has low health and is slightly slower, so cunning can kill them quickly, but intellect's spells and stuff go through armor many times, so they are a good counter to might. So it's a sort of rock paper scissors. So basically, these are both cunning uh, champion and monster, and you have a little stamina cube here that you put on the starting value here, which says like plus whatever it is. For my rogue, she gets back 2 stamina per round, so you start on 2. And then you have these different abilities here that you can it's all deterministic for your character. You choose what you want to do. So I had to do an analysis here. I got to go first because I had 4 initiative. The Flame Fox has 3. And um, it has 2 health. So I basically chose to I had a number of options. I could have tried to like backstab. It's not a blue creature, so I wouldn't have gotten a +1. I could have tried to save one for Bend, which would reduce its damage from 2 to 1. And then Steal costs 3 stamina, so it would have had to save up stamina. But basically, since we both have 2 hit points, it was really who's going to kill the other one first. So I went for Slash, which is a 2 damage attack. Unfortunately, the Flame Fox rolled a 6, which if you can see on there on the right side, so the way it works is I do my attack, then it rolls its defense die, which is this die here with the shields on it. And so elude basically, it rolls a 6, it ignored my hit, it attacked me back, and it did scratch, which is its weakest attack, thank goodness, because any other one would have killed me instantly. So it did 1 damage to me, and then the next round I tried to slash again, and that time it actually didn't. It rolled a I think a 2. So which that's no defense. So I did 2 damage to it, which means that it's dead. And then once you defeat it, in the upper left of the card up here is the renown, and that's sort of, as I mentioned, the Empire XP that you get for that. So I got a 2 renown token, and that allowed my Empire to advance, which this was my top Empire card, and as you can see down the left side, it says required 2 renown. So this one, the moment you get enough renown, you level up, and you flip over your Empire, which got me the Way of Schemes, which it's kind of specific, but it gets me money for scrap that's in the black market or in my tableau. So essentially, it encourages me to get items and use items, because when you use items, they turn into scrap, and then I can get money. Um, so I got that, and then you get a decent amount of loyalty and upkeep and another item, and you also get a settlement. So as you advance, you'll get higher tier settlements, but I got a level 1 settlement. I could have immediately placed it here in Azure Fall to get 3 loyalty, but I decided not to because, as I mentioned, I'm next to a purple location that does a reduction. So I'm going to try to explore further, probably next turn, to reveal another location. And that's most of the turn phase and most of the places on the map, or rather on the boards. The last thing that you do this in both solo and in a competitive game, is you draw an event. Either there's a deck of competitive events or fully cooperative events. I'm using competitive events, and you draw this card, which in a multiplayer game would have some impact either on the crown. The crown is the person with the most loyalty, or an impact on everybody else that's not the crown. In this case, for solo, I'm sorry, for against Nemeses, if it is a decree of law, then nothing happens. If it's a decree of dissent, then they both gain 1 loyalty. So I was lucky they don't gain loyalty, and that is the end of the phase. Um, so this has probably already been like a half an hour video, so maybe I'll stop here. This has been a very quick, broad overview, but I wanted to kind of give a sense of how the solo plays. So far, it's been very fast. Like basically, the Nemeses play almost instantly. You just roll the dice and sort of they place where they're going to place, and you don't have to keep track of their AI very much. They're basically just disrupting what you're trying to do, but they're constantly expanding. And then if you do encounter them, then you can get in combat with them, and they actually have like a boss on the back of each of these cards that is a very powerful monster, and you'll get renown for defeating them. So they both act as like an impediment and a race that you're trying to do against their loyalty, but they also can be a target that you can defeat. Some of the scenarios are actually like cooperative, where you and the other players are all trying to join up and take out one of the Nemesis bosses. Um, so yeah, I think I'm going to stop there. I'm going to keep playing. You set how far you want to play at the start of the game, so I set this to a 4-decade game. I'm at the first decade. I think now that I have the rhythm down, probably shouldn't take me more than like 10 minutes to get through a turn, maybe 10 to 20 minutes at most, depending on if I fight stuff. So yeah, I'm having a good time. As I mentioned, normally I'm not a big like strategy gamer, especially solo. I would not be caught dead playing a um, like a score chase, puzzly solo strategy game. But this game is like super thematic. It tells these little stories. You're recruiting RPG heroes. It even has foreteller narration, which if you're familiar with that is uh, really evocative voice acted audio narration for the tutorial, and then some of the more narrative scenarios. There's all kinds of scenarios in here. You unlock different nemesis that you can play against by doing sort of theme scenarios against them. There's even, I haven't gone into it yet, but there's even some like choose your own adventure style questing stuff in here in the scenario booklet. So yeah, it's been fun. Um, I look forward to playing with other people. It can be, I mean, I just kind of explained the vast majority of the game to you all. Um, if I were just cranking through it with other people, you basically explain this portion here, the loyalty, the skill wheel, ignore like all the individual abilities on here. You explain what the 4 trays do, and then you just go. I think it probably takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes to explain how the game works. Of course, the first game, people are just going to kind of be fumbling around, but yeah, the game is incredibly variable. Every time you play, you could go with a completely different strategy, build in each of these houses. The houses are very asymmetric. Um, these locations are varied, so you're not going to see the same locations every time. The monsters are different. Yeah, the quests are different. So I really enjoy games with heavy theme where the gameplay ties to the theme and expresses it well, um, where there's sort of like little stories that are told through gameplay, and where there's a lot of variability. And it's very rare that I can find one that I can sit down with like other strategy gamers and I can be satisfied as a more thematic narrative gamer and still play a strategy game with them. Um, so yeah, maybe I'll end it there. Summary being, it's been a blast, and I may make another one if I don't know, with another scenario. If people have questions about any of the stuff of how to run the solo mode or any of the rules, let me know.